and re-download and tell your mother, your sister, your friends, and your grandmother. If she asks what fantasy football is, teach it to her. Welcome back to the Fantasy Backpack, where we carry people to championships. Now, here's a little quick thing I wanted to do just for today. It's Friday. There are usually not many things. You're listening to news, you're going through news, you're watching, you're preparing. You basically have your roster set. But here's one thing I noticed that no one does. I mean, no one. Literally no one on YouTube, no one in podcasts, no one anywhere does this. No one talks about kickers. Now, most leagues have kickers. There are certain leagues where they're trying to get rid of kickers, but I like kickers. Kickers are important to teams, so therefore they should be a big part of fantasy as well. I also like punters. I think they should add punters, but I'm just weird like that because you know how important a good punter is to a team? So I'm simultaneously recording this for the podcast and for YouTube. It's just easier when I do these quick videos. But I want to go through kickers. Now, when I am drafting, I don't draft a kicker. Unless I have to fill out a roster completely during the draft, I don't draft a kicker. I may not draft a defense unless one drops really far that I think has the potential to be good. I usually just wait on a kicker because most people think kickers are random. They want to get rid of kickers because who knows when it's not random. Nothing is random. There are a few things that are random. You can figure out most of it based on something because you don't know how to look. Don't tell people that it's just random and pick up anyone and do. No, it is not. You could pick up a kicker that can get you flex-worthy points almost every week. Now, the good ones are the good ones because they're on good teams that put up a lot of points, sure. But I'm not trying to get those. I don't really want the greatest kicker. Great, it's a good start, but they're not going to do that all week. Kansas City puts up all the points, but they don't really kick that many field goals because they score a ton of points. I don't really want to go through that. I want to be able to pick up every week, so when bye weeks come, maybe I don't even want to start a kicker. Who knows? But I don't want to have a kicker that I'm locked into. I want to be able to pick up any random kicker, not random, that I select based on what I know to go forward and be like, okay, this guy can get me 5, 6, whatever your scoring is, because all scoring is different. In a lot of leagues that I'm commissioner of, I've changed the scoring a little bit to reward longer kicks and take away points from shorter kicks. But your league may not be that way. So what I've noticed that no one talks about, I mean, I could scan the entire YouTube and the entire podcast world or whatever. No one talks about kickers. It's like, just go in, pick the best one. Everybody's like, these people give up the most points to kicker. Okay, great, but I may not be able to get him that week, and then you're sending me to a minefield of kickers that you're just giving me random points. Don't do that. I hate when people give random points. You have a basis for it. Yes, the Giants have given up the most points to kickers. Okay, are they going to do it this week? What factors have you used to determine, or you just compile the number to say, oh, this team, this is that way because it is? I can't stand that, and I won't have you standing for it. All right, so this is how you determine. This is how you spot start kickers. This is how you drop and add and go through kickers, right? So every kicker, every special teams is related. And special teams is not just defense is special teams, right? To a lower extent, defense is special teams. Now, when you talk about special teams for terms of kicker, you talk about punt return, kick return, blah, blah, blah. But defense plays a large part of the kicking as well, a huge part of the kicking. So this is the first thing you do, right? The first thing you do when you're trying to select a kicker is you pick one from a team. First, you pick one that's good. You pick a kicker that's accurate. You can find kicking stats everywhere. You pick a kicker that's accurate, which means he can hit his kicks. You know, you don't want to be in the Chargers situation. The Chargers are a good spot start for teams, but their kickers just miss everything. Same with Minnesota. You have to know these things, but it's just all part of the process. So you pick a kicker that's good, kicker that can hit his kicks, a kicker that is accurate from long distance. That's a way to start. Now, the relationship with the kicker and special teams is the average start position of drives determine how good or the likelihood of that a kicker is going to get a kick. So if your average start position is the 25-yard line on a kickoff, there's really no number that says your kicker is going to be good. Now, for every yard you increase the start position, it's a notch to the kicker, a check mark to the kicker. So, for instance, the Giants do give up the most yards to kickers, but their average start position on kickoffs is about 25.6 yards. So they're not getting any more yards past what they award you if you just kneeled in the end zone. And their defense gives up an average of 27.8. So right there, you're not starting good, but your defense is giving up more. So the likelihood of the team that is coming against you, the team that's going against you's likelihood of then being able to convert a field goal just increased, because you're not starting here. So which means either at a punt or kickoff, etc., the other team is already slightly ahead. Okay, so that's the first determining factor. Where is the average start position of teams on drives? The higher teams the teams that score the most are always going to have the higher higher field position of starts on drives. So Kansas City, the Rams, they're all going to be up there in terms of average field position started. But teams like the Chargers, Chicago, the Jets, teams like that, you wouldn't equate in the same sentence as those first two, but their average drive starting position is comparable. So those teams will always have kickers that do well or have the potential to do well. So you want a kicker from a team that is high in average drive start position and going against the team that gives up more yards in drive position. So if you are looking for a middle of the pack team, you're looking at the Jets, who is pretty high in terms of drive start position, and they're going against the Giants, who give up a lot. So right there, you're automatically tuned into, okay, this guy could potentially be a good kicker for this week because his team average start position, drive start position is decent or high, and the other team, just their defense, their ability to stop the other team in terms of their starting drive position is not very good. I hope I didn't just confuse you, but you could go back and watch the video if I did. It's just start position versus what the team gives up. Not necessarily the best offense because they score the most. It's basically what it comes down to. Now, the third factor that I use when deciding on a kicker, okay, they have a good starting drive position. The team they're playing against gives up a good amount of the other team's starting drive position. Okay, good. Check. Now, the defense they're going up against has to be an okay defense. It has to be marginal. It has to be just okay enough, bend, not break type defense. Good defenses, you punt. Bad defenses, you score touchdowns. Average defenses, you kick field goals and score touchdowns. So that's where you want to be. The team they're going against defense must be average. Just average, okay? And you want to play against defenses that gives up the most passing first downs, because the more first down they give up, the quicker drives are extended, but the likelihood that you might throw an incompletion, the clock stops, as much clock isn't wasted. If the drive stalled, you've already picked up enough first downs, so now your kicker is in a position to get kicks, rather than if it were defenses that give up a lot of first downs, but most of it's through the run. The likelihood of your kicker being able to get points is not very high because it shrinks the game. They don't get as much opportunities. So if you're giving up first downs via the run, the clock just continues to go. It shrinks the game. Your kicker doesn't get as many opportunities, and therefore you can't find the right kicker. So those are what you use. I mean, when you start using this, and I hope you start using it because it works for me. It absolutely works for me. I can pick up any kicker at any week and guaranteed to get me decent amount of points. You don't have to get the best ones on the high scoring offense. It just usually doesn't work unless it's a historic offense, kind of like Kansas City, kind of like Denver with Peyton Manning, stuff like that. So average drive position, how bad the other team is at giving up average drive position, a decent defense, not good, not bad, and how many first downs do they give up via the pass. That is what you use to determine how to start or what kicker to start that week. This is the Fantasy Backpack. Trust me, no one else is giving you this. Go pick up a kicker this weekend that gets you 7 to 8 points, and then he's like your flex, and you don't even have to worry about your lineup that much because you just started a kicker that you were confident in because you listened to the Fantasy Backpack. I appreciate you guys listening to me. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you download and re-download and tell your mother, your sister, your friends, and your grandmother. If she asks what fantasy football is, teach it to her. Fantasy Backpack. Appreciate y'all.